My name is Grant Dorman. I am running for Bonner County Assessor. I have a background in land surveying. I was born and raised in a conservative Christian household and worked in the construction industry. My father was a contractor, my mother was a school teacher, so I always was around construction. In fact, I worked in the construction industry before joining the Navy, where I served as an air traffic controller in Florida. And I started off with pursuing a degree in civil engineering, ended up graduating in land surveying. I decided to go back and get my master's in business administration so I could do a better job at actually running my business. Realized that being dedicated to one industry was a bad idea, so we branched out into public utilities, transportation, and eventually to the timber industry. The primary function of an assessor is to determine fair market valuations of property. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. A lot of people think the assessor is the one that determines people's property taxes. The burden of a community's property taxes is determined by the taxing districts, things like the library boards, the school districts, and so on and so forth. And those bodies, they determine their budgets. And then it's the assessor's job to assess properties so that each person gets their appropriate share of that budget. They don't determine the property tax itself. They just, the size of the pie is up to the taxing districts. How the pie is cut up is determined by property values. And so why am I qualified? I ran my own business I've been a surveyor for 25 years, and I have my own business for 20 of those 25 years, where managing up to 30 employees at times, running field crews, bringing out, collecting data, bringing it back, distilling the data, making it into mean something, whether it's a map or a boundary decision or whatever. So a lot of that day-to-day deployment of field crews and office staff is very analogous to what the assessor would do. Two things. There's a lot of employee turnover problems in that office, and so I want to be able to reduce the turnover, which can definitely be quantified, and also reduce the appeals. There needs to be some leadership change in order to fix these systems so that we don't have these kinds of problems. Someone who understands data, someone who understands how all this math plugs in to give us all good information. And so I feel like my technical expertise is totally relevant to that from a statistical perspective, as well as just understanding the real estate market.
Do you feel like there's enough technical expertise in the assessor's office now?
There's been a lot of turnover, so a lot of young staff. I say young staff meaning been there not very long. I don't know everybody there. I know they've been losing people, so every time you lose somebody...
So there's quite a turnover.
There's quite a bit of turnover, yeah. It's been a problem, and there's been no disputing that. Everybody knows that. Costing tables in Bonner County, they're antiquated. Costing tables are like the unit cost per square foot, cost per acre.
And why are they antiquated?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know why. It's supposed to be updated every year, but to my knowledge, they haven't been updated in many years. So if you don't get the relief you want at the state level or at the county commissioner's level, you can go to the state to appeal your tax assessment. So we have 44 counties. Last year, they heard 24 cases at the state. 11 of those cases came from our county. Think about that. 11 of 24 came from our county alone. 46% of all the hearings that the state heard came from this county. When there's 40, so we had 11. Ada County had 6. They have 7 times the valuation that we do, but only half the appeals. So I said, maybe it's just 2021. Maybe it's just the crazies up in North Idaho. Maybe it's. I said, let's go back and look at all the past 3 years since you took office. And let's look at Kootenai County, Boundary County, just as a comparison. So over the last 3 years, Kootenai County had 4 appeals.
To the state?
To the state.
In 3 years?
In 3 years. Boundary County had 1. We had 28. So something's going on where there's not satisfaction, not relief that they need. So we should be able to handle these dissatisfactions at the Board of Equalization at the county level before they ever get to the state. But if it's so coordinated and so collaborated that people can't get the relief they need, they have to go to the state. So to me, the fact that these are going to the state is evidence that there's a little too much coziness, not enough independence between these two elected bodies. for people to be able to actually get the fair, day in court, so to speak, to get to appeal their assessment. State statute says that part of the assessor's job is managing current land records. They have to be they keep the platting books. They're in charge of plotting the deeds, so they have an accurate, mapping of the county, because they got to know the acreages to be able to assess value. So it's up to them to do that. Right now, that function is being done in the GIS department under the supervision of the GIS director, who answers to the commissioners. He has been deputized as an assessor, but his boss is the commissioners. That's the responsibility of the assessor for now. But the state is taking that over slowly. And what they're doing is they're continuing to chisel away at the budgets. In fact, I just this morning received an email from the director showing over the next 2 years how they're going to continue to take money from this program, from assessors. Not saying here, hey assessors, you can do less of a job. You still have to do the job. We're going to let, there's going to be 10 dealers in the state that can also do the job, but we're going to basically not pay you to do this job that you're required to do. So now the state, each county's going to have to figure out how to actually offer the service to the community with less money from the state as they continue to choke that back. What they're really trying to do is drive registrations to online. They want people to register vehicles online, they want them to do mail-in registrations, then it can all be managed from Boise. That's kind of the goal as I see it. There's been a lot going on the last few years that have woken people up as to what needs to happen to preserve your property rights. Over the last 25 years as a surveyor, I've continued to stand on the soapbox of, hey folks, you got to preserve your property rights. If you don't put that fence on your line and your neighbors, you pull it 10 feet over thinking you're doing yourself a favor, you're not. You got to put it on the line because your neighbor's going to think he has 10 feet. So there's all these things. If we don't stand up for our property rights and show people how they can do that, we'll lose our rights. And it's really that spirit that kind of encouraged me to go to run for this specific office, because I'm pretty passionate about property rights.